Dr. Rick Bright, who was the director of the federal agency leading the charge to find a vaccine for coronavirus, had been removed from his position by the Trump administration and essentially demoted to what he has referred to as a less impactful role. And in an open letter to the public, he has made clear that he believes that this has been retaliation due to the fact that he has been resistant toward using congressionally appropriated funds on acquiring drugs that he feels are not scientifically proven to treat coronavirus, drugs like chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. In his letter, and I'm going to read you a few excerpts, he wrote, "Unfortunately, this resulted in clashes with HHS political leadership, including criticism for my protective efforts to invest early in vaccines and supplies critical to saving American lives. I also resisted efforts to fund potentially dangerous drugs promoted by those with political connections." So he specifically called out the hydroxychloroquine promotions during these press conferences. He says specifically, and contrary to misguided directives, I limited the broad use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine promoted by the administration as a panacea, but which clearly lack the scientific merit. While I'm prepared to look at all options and think outside of the box for effective treatments, I rightly resisted efforts to provide an unproven drug on demand to the American public. I insisted that these drugs be provided only to hospitalized patients with confirmed COVID-19 while under the supervision of a physician. These drugs have potentially serious risks associated with them, including increased mortality observed in some recent studies in patients with COVID-19. And he's absolutely right. Sweden has completely stopped using hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19 patients. In Brazil, they had to stop a study that used the drug on coronavirus patients because many of them developed severe heart conditions. Some of them also died as a result of the side effects connected to the drug.
Yeah, look, in a rational world, the fact that he was pushed out after apparently, at least from this account, doing the right thing would provide a little bit of solace. It would help to boost his reputation. In reality, it'll likely just result in the Republicans attacking him more viciously, because not only was he cast out by the Trump administration, which means that, like chum thrown in the ocean, a right-winger has to attack that target to prove their loyalty, but also he was right about something scientific, and so he has to be destroyed. There were two sorts of people, like this whole time for the past month, both in terms of media and in terms of doctors. There were the people who were urging caution, while usually tinged with hope that this would be the miracle drug that people were saying, but we understood the side effects that we could read. I don't need to be a doctor to know that, causing fatal heart arrhythmia is a bad thing. And there were the people, both media and doctors, fake doctors, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, stuff like that, who were pushing it and pretending that it was this Lazarus-like cure, 100% and all of that. And so it turns out that the people who were urging caution were wise to do so, the doctors and the media. And we're going to get an apology from the other people? Acknowledgement that we were right? No, we're not going to get anything like that. In fact, you're probably going to lose your job. If they're in a position of power over you and you were right about this, it is more inconvenient to them that you were right than that the drug doesn't work.
One other thing that he mentioned quite a bit in his letter was cronyism. And so there's, he's implying that there are financial interests in promoting this drug that is not scientifically proven to actually help with coronavirus. In fact, the studies that we've seen so far provide limited data for some possibility that it could help under some circumstances. But in most cases, people do suffer from serious heart conditions, serious side effects. And look, the other side of this is, or the other negative impact of what the Trump administration is doing is that hydroxychloroquine is a drug that lupus patients rely on in order to stay alive. Lupus patients in the United States have had a hard time filling their prescriptions because of what Donald Trump has irresponsibly said about the drug during his press conferences. And it's also used as a malaria drug. And anytime anyone has the audacity to question Donald Trump or other members of the administration, anytime their power or their financial interests are threatened by the truth, they just get rid of the person who's sharing the truth. And in most cases, people who speak out against the administration do so under, anonymity, or they'll speak off the record with reporters. In this case, Dr. Rick Bright is like, you are not going to silence me. I'm going to come out. I'm going to tell the country what's actually going on and what happened to me. In one part of his letter, he said, sidelining me in the middle of this pandemic and placing politics and cronyism ahead of science put lives at risk and stunts national efforts to safely and effectively address this urgent public health crisis. And he's absolutely right. He's like, I'm not going to shut up because lives are on the line here. And I'm sure he's well aware of how the Trump administration is going to treat him moving forward.
In super fast, I just have one other thing to say. Like they wanted to present themselves. Look, I've got this thing that's going to be amazing, and they're telling you that it's not going to be amazing, but I'm telling you it's amazing. So you should think of me as the person who's doing something right now. And whether or not they're financially benefiting from pushing that, it appears that some in the Trump administration are. It was certainly a good distraction, but it was also pointless from my point of view because there was an alternative that he could have been pushing. It's not a miracle drug. It doesn't cure 100% of people, but he could have been funding masks and gloves, those sorts of things, hospital gowns, tests. He could have been doing a tour around the country, hand delivering photo ops galore, delivering PPE to nurses around the country. He could be reassuring people every day that he's going to be providing what hospitals need. It would have both helped and would have helped him pragmatically in terms of appearing to actually care about this thing. But he decided to go in the other direction and didn't do either of those.
That's exactly right. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about helping people and ensuring that he saves as many lives as possible and protects as many healthcare workers as possible. It's, yes, he cares about his reelection, but more importantly, what does he care even more about than getting reelected? His money, right? So, if there are financial ties, which I wouldn't be surprised if there were, considering all of the conflicts of interest we've seen from Donald Trump already, one of which we'll talk about later in the show today, if he can make a quick buck off of a tragedy like this, he will. If his friends can make a quick buck off of a tragedy like this, they will. And that's really like at the heart of every decision this guy makes.
But I don't understand, like, he couldn't come up with some way to make money off of the traditional solutions. Like, I'm confident that a con man, a grifter of his talent and experience could have come up with some way to have benefited. And like, we're really, I know we're going over, I apologize. We're having this conversation about which way is the pandemic going to go in terms of his reelection. Are people going to rally around him and the flag because it's a disaster? Or are they going to see that lots of people are dying and turn away from him? But he could have guaranteed it would go in his direction if he did the very easy things that he's been told to do by doctors. And he wouldn't even be spending his own money. He'd be spending our money to provide these supplies. Like, do you have any doubt that if he had aggressively protected America from this pandemic, that he wouldn't be reelected?
Oh, I have no doubt. I think that he certainly would get reelected, but he's not a sophisticated guy. Right.
That's
so,
true.
yes, he's a grifter, but he's not the typical sophisticated political grifter that we're used to. And he wears his cruelty on his sleeve. Like, he doesn't care about being painted as a cruel person or being perceived as a cruel person. That is who he is. And he's proud of that. And for a lot of his supporters, it's not the bug, it's the feature, which is why every time, a story comes up about him being vicious to a journalist during his press conferences, I think that legacy media outlets get it wrong. Covering that only helps him with his base. They love it. And he's going to keep acting this way because he's gotten away with it throughout his entire term. So it's pretty devastating, and it's scary to see him get rid of more of the adults who are doing the right thing, who are trying to help us in the middle of this pandemic. But we'll follow the story and give you guys updates as it develops.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.